Hi, as promised, this is a tutorial video how to wrap your hands with a material boxing wrap. First things first, you've got to know why you're wrapping your hands. Primarily the reason you wrap your hands is to protect the metacarpals on the back of your hand. That's the number one reason. There are other reasons, protecting the knuckle to absorb the impact on the back of the hand when you're striking, and then you want to support the wrist and your thumb as well. So you've got to think of those four reasons. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're wearing something like an inner, you've got to make sure that those inners are protecting the four areas of your hand that we're marking. And with general inners, you're only protecting the knuckle and the wrist. So you're missing two things on there. So a material wrap is going to cover all areas of that. So what I'd recommend with wrapping hands is for adults or juniors with large hands, you want to be using a 4.5 wrap. I prefer the thinner materials because they can wrap around the hand a lot easier. They don't mount up in terms of material, and they're going to keep your hand a little bit cooler as well. So if we start off, this is your wrap with your loop, and what you want to do is, some wraps will actually say this side down, so they'll dummy proof it. Here, if you can just zoom in on that, that's your bottom side, so where the material and the stitching is on the bottom, that's your face down. So when you loop it over your thumb, and you want to come over the top of the wrist here. Some people, when they're up hands, they're coming underneath. Now the reason you want to come over the top is because we want most of the material on the top of your hand and less on the underside. If you start wrapping your wrist and the top of your palm here, where your veins are, obviously it's going to be a bit tighter there. You want that to be flowing through as much as possible. So everything on the back of your hand, this is your metacarpals that you're protecting. So come over the top of the wrist this way, and you're wrapping away from your thumb. So wherever you're wrapping, your wrap's going to come this way away from the thumb. So secured in place. Personal preference, you can go around the wrist once or twice. I'll do twice just for the sake of the video. Okay, so now we've got the wrap here, we're going to wrap the thumb. So coming over, under, and then you're going to secure that into place there. Now again, personal preference, you can go around that twice. I personally just like to go around it once, make sure it's in place. So as you come round, up to the top of your knuckle on your little finger, you're coming underneath, and then you're coming back over and you're wrapping the knuckles. Now some people like to put a sponge or some padding there. You're then obviously going to put that padding on. I prefer to put it on the material rather than on the hand, because you're not going to irritate the hand as much with a sponge or anything like padding wise you're putting there. So if you're doing that, then obviously this is the time to put that pad on and you're going to bind it in. So coming under, back down. So as you can see, what we're starting to do is make these X's on the back of the hand. So as you're coming down here and you're coming here. Now this is obviously for your metacarpals. So if you think your metacarpals are straight here, you're going to bind it in by doing a sideways motion, which you can't do because you're then going to be coming all over your palm. So by doing the X's, that's going to secure those metacarpals in place. So when the impact happens on the knuckle, they're going to come down and they're going to bend, but they're only going to come to a certain point because you've got those X's and everything's restricted here. Okay, so where are we? So we've come up here. So we're then going to come back up and we're going to come through the little finger. And as you can see, as I turn it underneath, I'm then coming back around here. Over the top of the knuckle, back down. And again, by doing this, you're still making those X's. Coming back up through the middle fingers. And again, you're coming back round in the same direction. Over the top of the knuckle, back down, and last through the middle finger and forefinger here. This time what I do is I go the other direction. So you're coming off this way and you're coming back over to your fingers. Okay, there. Now you can go around that a few times to make that extra padding, but obviously if you're doing a full circle, top and bottom, you're then going to collect all of the padding on the underside as well. So that's where a sponge would be better, because you've got more material on the top, which is what we want, and less material on the bottom, which we don't want. So as we're coming down, so now as we're finishing off, we're coming down the hand and we're just going to secure the rest of the bandage around the wrist. Some people have wrist problems, so they might want to come further down to keep that in line. Again, personal preference. And then just secure it in place. So as you can see, X is on the back of the hand, sideways motion for the straights. Number 1, impact. Number 2, the knuckles are covered, and obviously you're going to have your padding from your glove as well to absorb that impact. 3, our wrist is supported here, and 4, our thumb is wrapped up here. Okay, so that's how one way to wrap a hand. There are many others. So as you can see here, I've got my open palm, which is what you want. Make a fist. You've got a little bar here almost. That's one way to wrap it. There are different variations, but as long as you're covering those 4 areas which you discussed in the video, then your hand's good to go. Okay, hopefully that was useful. Please like it, share it, and there you go.